Over the past couple of years, Planet Underground has worked tirelessly to produce a brand new style of underground utility training. And this episode of Planet Underground TV is going to walk the viewer through some of the core components of the program. Our previous episode touched on the project and the different ways it can reach workers in the underground utility and locating industry. This time, we are going to take you more in depth into the specifics of the training system, and we'll showcase some of the exciting new things we've been doing. The first major section of the program is called Locating Instruments. In Locating Instruments, we take you beyond the classroom and into the field of locating using a few different video techniques. In most scenarios, we shot a Staking University locator with 2 ground cameras and a drone camera. This was so we could create a sense of depth and location for the viewer, so that they were able to understand what direction the locator was walking in, as well as to get a sense of the wide-spanning ground the locator had to cover in a particular locate demonstration. We try to show our Diversitech campus as much as possible, because many of the same locations are revisited throughout the training, making it feel like you're actually taking a practical class at Staking University in Manteno, Illinois. The drone footage also allowed us to insert line graphics of the various utilities that were being located beneath the ground. This worked well because it creates a sort of X-ray effect for the viewer that allows them to see where the locator is relative to the target line or the non-target line, and how difficult it can be to find utilities using the locate instrument if you don't know what you're doing. There are many different moments in the training videos that show the utility lines in the ground, and how the instrument interacts with them and the operator. Another major graphical component is the use of green orbs on the utility lines. We use the orbs mostly to represent the signal on the utility and what direction it may be going in along the utility, or how strong the signal is. This also allows us to distinguish visually between the target lines and the non-target lines, which is a very important aspect to this training. Most importantly, we inset GoPro footage of the instrument screen to show the viewer what the locator is seeing during the locate. So when the viewer can see the underground utilities, the locate operator, and the locate instrument all at the same time, it brings the real-life locate scenario right onto their computer screen. During the video that plays, we also have narration that acts as the instructor teaching the student in real time what is going on in the different locate scenarios. This information becomes important later, because we also come up with questions for the student to answer after watching the video. The questions test the viewer on what was learned on the locate and reference specific moments that are crucial to the correct answer.
200 milliamps is going to be our output. We asked for 400, but we didn't get it. We're going to utilize an inductive coupler on 33 kilohertz to locate a fiber line. We place the instrument at a 45-degree angle and drag in a perpendicular fashion away from our null locate. Then we compare the two distances.
The entire locating instruments component covers a long spectrum of locate scenarios that the staking university instructors have come across during their locating careers.
Okay, I'm ready. Wait. Yeah.
Were you able to see his finger, what he's clicking?
Yeah.
Alright, cool. That's all we need.
Thank God. Now I can readjust and actually get this a nice shot.
You want me to paint this?
Yeah, go ahead and paint it, Paul.
Okay.
Spiders.
Just the dangers of, that locators have to go through.
Okay, first off, you need to do some ground camera of me. I do it from sort of behind.
Show that showing 0. Ow.
There are 5 subcategories in the locating instruments section. The basics covers things that beginning locators and expert locators would both know. It also serves as an introduction to things that are covered later. Creating the circuit deals more with the transmitter and the 2 different methods of energizing a metallic pipe or cable and the benefits of each one. The Analyze section focuses on the interpretation of the receiver information and when you can be sure you have an accurate or inaccurate locate. The Science section shows the viewer why the signal behaves the way that it does and how the locate operator can benefit from that. Near Myths serves as an overview of several commonly held misconceptions regarding the electromagnetic locating process. We hope the locating instrument section will accomplish a visual world of which a student or viewer can learn locating faster and better than they would inside of a classroom. The combination of the cameras, narration, and graphics creates a vehicle of information that you cannot get in any other training program. We also use several different receivers and transmitters to show that all electromagnetic locating instruments operate under the same basic principles and can be used in all of the scenarios that we cover. If you think you know everything there is to know about locating, you'll probably be surprised. With over 50 videos in the Locate Instruments section, there are dozens of unique but realistic locating scenarios that are meant to expand the world of locating for anyone who takes the training. The next major component of the utility training program is basic utility knowledge. We were able to utilize the various utilities around our Diversitech campus to teach the viewer about how these utility systems work on a general level. Electric systems, water and sewer systems, gas systems, and telecom systems. These are the main utilities being located every day, and this is how we split up the contents of basic utility knowledge. In each video, we essentially start at the very beginning of the utility system and make it all the way to the customer's utilities in Manteno. This allows us to explain all of the small details of how utilities are set up and delivered to people using narration and graphics. Each basic utility knowledge video is essentially a 20-minute video tour of the utility systems that focuses heavily on the utility setup in our Manteno area. This is also a component that relies heavily on drone footage. We then stop and explain the main utility components and their function using highlights and diagrams. We integrate photos of other utility structures around the country, which is a good way for students to see how they differ from the utility structures in our Manteno area. We also show the utility lines or structures beneath the ground, just like we do on the locating instrument's drone footage. One major component of the basic utility knowledge is a quick review slide that shows the definition of the utility component being covered and other quick facts about it. This is important for the test part and is meant to help the user retain information about the utility. Once the viewer or student finishes the basic utility knowledge section, they will have a clear understanding of how the main utilities work from A to Z and how they can apply that knowledge in the future. The third major component to the training that we worked on is called utility map reading. This is similar to basic utility knowledge because we use the same drone footage and color highlights. But here, we provide real-life maps of those utilities that the viewer can inspect in the video. We also have narration explaining the maps and just how challenging it can be to interpret them correctly. Some maps are built schematically, where the main purpose is to spread and show the individual utility lines relative to others, rather than actually portraying them where they are beneath the ground. At the beginning of each map reading video, we show a satellite view of each individual utility and explain the basic functions of the maps commonly used for those utilities. For example, the gas maps are the only ones to show property line measurements, and we wanted to make those things clear to the viewer. On some maps, there are lines that are abandoned, and on other maps, there are some lines that aren't even on the map. So we try not to only show the viewer each type of map for each type of utility, but we also try to make it clear how the maps are different from each other. The compass is another major part of the training systems. While also used in locating instruments, the compass is utilized to show the viewer the direction the drone camera is facing, relative to the maps on the screen. Because we make it a point to let the viewer know that the maps always have north at the top, so sometimes the viewer or student will have to resolve that in their head as the map reading information is being covered. Each map also has its own icons for the utility components and features, and we make sure to stop and show the viewer what these things mean and what they look like in the field using highlights and boxes. We also provide a bit of history and contextual notes to the maps as well. Utility map reading also has its own testing function, as the other components do, so it's important for the viewer to pay attention and absorb the information given to them by the narration. Here, at Planet Underground, we really want to dive into all these subjects and take the viewer or student on a ride that teaches them important information about locating, utility knowledge, and utility maps.
Once at a substation, The voltage is cut down to lower levels. Lamp holes are locations along a sewer main where the flow of sewage may be visually monitored. This single frequency locating device has no problems picking up the tracer wire. You can see that the map has not been updated to show you the presence of this westward bound fiber coming out of handhole 24-2.
You can't get knowledge like this, or a video product like this, anywhere else. We have other components to the training like visual observation and tickets and maps. Visual observation is a key thing for excavators to know. They need to verify if marks are right or not, and study what's above the ground to determine what can't be seen below the ground. Tickets and Maps is a course that tests the ability of a student to integrate written instructions with map reading, utility map reading, and visual observation. These courses focus on the checks and balances within the damage prevention system. It's not just locators that need to avoid damages, but excavators as well. Sometimes, excavators can cause a utility damage because there aren't any marks, and there's nothing above the ground that tells them where the unmarked line would be. Everyone needs to use the knowledge they have to limit damages. Our goal is to bring that knowledge to people with this training program. We hope this video explained some of the details of how the video training works. For the remainder of this episode, we are going to show you a full locate instrument video to show an example of what one of our completed training videos looks like. The video is called Maps Are Just a Guide and represents the intersection of 811 utility map reading and mislocates. More accurately, it explores a misidentification of cables in the ground and how the utility map contained the information needed to solve the problem. It's a common viewpoint to believe maps really are just a guide, but you'll see in the video, they can be much more than that.
We're going to conductively locate a cable TV feeder that serves a building. Here's the map for this line. As you can tell, it travels for about a block. What's interesting about this line is that it was not marked during a one-call locate. Five cables were marked for cable television, but this one was not. This feeder line is fed out of a pedestal on the next block. And was actually the first line installed on this block. This shows the inside of this pedestal, where all five lines can be seen. What can't be seen inside this pedestal is the line that was not marked, because it's not fed by this pedestal. That's a fairly straightforward explanation. The locators that marked this dig site only accounted for the 5 cables that were inside the pedestal. Here is the pedestal that the cable TV feeder feeding this building originates. The pedestal that had the 5 marked cables also is fed from inside this pedestal. Let's take a look at all 5 cables represented on the map that leave this pedestal. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. But the unmarked cable is clearly shown on the map as not originating inside this amplifier pedestal. Instead, it originates at the amplifier pedestal to our north. It's often said that maps are a guide, and in this case, they're a tremendous guide because they do show the unmarked cable as well as the 5 cables that exit the amplifier pedestal on the corner. Let's take a look at a series of photos from another locate. We know now there are 2 lines that cross the street, but again, only 1 line is marked. This time, the feeder line to the building is marked, but the line feeding the pedestal is unmarked. Looking closer, we see 5 lines that are marked. However, the one that you see painted in the sidewalk was the one that we saw crossing the street. And that is the line that serves the building. The locator has drawn that line as coming out of the pedestal. In locating, we have to be able to take what we can visually see and couple it with what maps say, as well as what the instrument gives us for information. When we can successfully put all 3 of those things together, we have the greatest chance at not missing lines within areas of excavation.
The biggest oversight in the locating industry occurs when responsible parties do not provide opportunities for continuing education of their locating personnel. We believe our "Maps Are Just a Guide" video is a clear example of how education can create a better system of checks and balances in the underground utility industry. It's no secret that damages are a result of a lack of education. And with thousands of companies digging a year in each state, an online training system can be an effective way to reach people that need to be trained, including newcomers and veterans.